grandsons of mine are going to find the woman of their dreams one of these days, and they're going to raise their own children. They're going to have their own families. There's no better place to do that than the great United States of America, one nation under God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God that's the country that's the land of the free and the home of the brave. And so to preserve that for my family, if it costs every dollar I have, but I can preserve their freedom for the future, it's better than a bowl of stew today. Don't sell out your birthright.
Right.
And so you have to engage, and you have to serve God by serving your family, serve your community, serve your country. Mm-hmm. And if you do that as a horse sale auctioneer or a real estate agent or however you do that, do it.
It's time for Gun and Saddle, a United Country M. Edwards Realty and Auction weekly broadcast where we talk about anything and everything related to our God-fearing country lifestyles and the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to make them possible. Join Monty Edwards and Carrie Hanlon as they take a deeper look at the land we all love and the people that call it home. This is Gun and Saddle.
Okay, we're here, Carrie, and it wouldn't be fitting to have a new season of a Gun and Saddle live streamcast without having something right at the last second blow up and say, hey, there's a problem streaming to one of the pages. But that, if you saw that right when we started a while ago before the intro, we just got a message. It's showing us that I'm not sure our feed's going out on our YouTube channel. We had a little controversy here earlier, not sure if we were trying to double stream that thing, so I think there's a chance it could still be there. If you are on YouTube and you are watching us, if you're a registered Gmail subscriber, go ahead and put a comment in, just let us know it's working. We would appreciate that. We should be on our Facebook Live page, Edwards Realty and Auction, and also going out to LinkedIn and some other locations. So man, it's great to be here, Carrie. Glad to get started. Been really talking about doing this and getting this back going for quite some time. I know here in the office, they're probably sick of hearing me talk about it. But Carrie, ever since we started the Gun and Saddle podcast a couple years ago, Carrie has just been kicking and clawing to try to get on this show.
Absolutely, I couldn't wait.
I mean,
I'm glad I'm finally here, my debut.
Yeah. No, honestly, Carrie, I've had to, prod her a little to get her to do this. She's not a glory hound in any sorts of the word as far as doing this kind of stuff, but I've really been excited about getting her on here with me. We have so many good conversations in this office about what's going on in the communities and what's going on with our kids and, just what's going on in the world that we live in. And honestly, that's what we want Gun and Saddle to be. I know you may be watching today and you may say, well, I don't have a horse and I don't go hunting. But that's not what Gun and Saddle is really trying to capture. We're trying to get in there and talk about the land we love and the people that live here. And, it's like I was telling Carrie before, it'd be hard to find anything that would exactly encapsulate every person that lives here. But there's an independence in this part of the country that I think it kind of embodies when we talk about the intro and the way Gun and Saddle's set up. So we're really excited. Carrie, thanks for being here. Tell everybody hello.
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 Glad to be here.
Yeah. Carrie, if you noticed in the on title, I've got her, kind of gave her the title of the real estate guru. So part of what we want to do on this show, and we're going to do this at the conclusion after we do our interview with Steve. We're really excited to bring you that here in just a few minutes. That was a recorded interview that I did with him yesterday. But I'm really, really hoping that we can also have a time during the year here as we do this on a weekly basis to bring a few of our properties up, talk about them at the end of the show. It's a great time if you will join us live because we're going to try to do this each week at 10 a.m. We're going to have it where you can make comments and those comments can pop up on the screen. And I don't want y'all to miss the opportunity to chastise Maddie a little because she's in here with us. She's just not on screen. She's actually the one changing the scenes and controlling the intros and outros and all of that. So be sure if you can and make a few comments to Maddie as well. Don't leave her out. But as we go forward, Carrie, before we get started about this interview with Steve, I wanted to give you a little bit of time just to give us a little flavor on kind of what's going on in your life right now. I know you've got a daughter that's starting her senior year.
I do. I don't know if we can talk about that too much. I might break down. Yep, my last one. She's a senior over at Littlefield High School. Really, really busy. She is very active in everything. We're in everything from student council, volleyball, basketball, you name it, we're in it. We've got homecoming coming up next week, and she was nominated for Queen. See, I can get real teary real quick, and so she's super excited about that. Just very busy over there in Littlefield. So.
Well, and I know that there's something kind of special you shared with me the other day that girls, when they're growing up, they always have these ideas and these things that they want to do when they're growing up and in high school. And she did. She said, I've been dreaming of this ever since I was 5 years old. Yeah. And she had an older brother and sister growing up, so she's watched this every year, and so it's just been fun. And what we're talking about, I don't know that we ever really actually came, but she was selected as a homecoming queen
nominee. Yeah. And it's just fun for those girls, and so she's super excited. We're excited for her.
It's just, to me, the thing that's really neat is having kids that grew up in a small school here in Sudan and living here my entire life, marrying a woman that was also, she grew up in Matador, Texas. The heartbeat of these little communities are the people and their kids, raising them and trying to instill in them values and teaching them to do things right even when nobody's watching, because they're not just doing them to please people. They're trying to serve a greater power, which is our Lord. Yeah. And that's something I love. This is God-fearing country here. Yeah. And, so it's really special. It's neat to see those tears well up in the mama's eyes when she's talking about her daughter and those things. So that's cool. Listen, we are going to go into an interview that I was able to do with a really good friend of mine, a guy named Steve Friskup. He's up the road. He's a preacher at Cowboy Fellowship Church. He's also a world-renowned horse auctioneer. But he was nice enough to come in for our premiere and sat down with me yesterday, and he gave me about a 35-minute interview. We said we were going to try to keep it to 20. But it just flowed. He had a lot of good things to say. Talked about how he got started in the auction business, some different things that have been going on in his life in the last couple of years. So I think this will be a real treat. And we just want you guys to enjoy this. And then at the end of this, we're going to have a few more minutes. We've got a few little things we're going to do to wrap up the show and get ready to kind of plan for what we'll be doing next week on Gun and Saddle.
Great.
Well, the day's finally come where I finally followed through and got you in here for this interview, Steve. You've been willing to do this for a long time, and I'm really excited to have you here. I have with me today Steve Friskup, an auctioneer that is pretty world-renowned in the equine circuits and also a really good friend of mine. And he's also a person that I know does a good job of preaching God's Word and also a great grandfather and father. So thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you, Monty. This is an opportunity that I've been looking forward to.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today, and I told you before we started we was going to try to keep this to about 20 minutes. I'm betting we're going to have trouble with that, but we're going to try. With our Gun and Saddle podcast, one of the things that we really try to focus on is just the people that call this place home and all the unique things that are going on here. I think a lot of times we get kind of branded as flyover states and places where there's not much happening, but in all honesty, there's a lot going on around here. And as I've traveled different parts of the country, I know you've done probably more traveling than me, but I've noticed that people out in this part of the world tend to work a lot. Yes, and they're not scared of rolling up their sleeves and tackling things. And you're no exception to that, Steve. So I just thought I'd give you a little bit of time to talk about your auctioneering profession, kind of what led you to auctioneering and why you're still doing it.
Well, the short story of it all is when I was fixing to be a freshman in high school, my dad bought a sale barn. Now, he was a guy that had worked in sale barns. He went to auctioneer school, all that stuff. And there became 2 sale barns in Oklahoma for sale, and we drove and looked at them. And there was just a little old community sale in Meeker, Oklahoma. And we ended up buying that one, and we took off running our own auction. Nobody in the family really knew what they were doing, and I picked up. It's kind of a God-given talent, or not kind of. It really is God-given. My auctioneering, I never did go to school or anything, but every Monday, my dad would have to go threaten the principal every year to get me to move up to the next grade because I never went to school on a Monday, and so I missed too many days. But I would sell a bunch of the stuff outside. I'd sell hay and tires and rabbits, and then I'd sell the baby. Got where I could sell the baby calves, and then I ran the sorting alley, kind of whatever that was. And then at the end of the day, we'd run all the Packer cows up. There's an old man named Leonard had a stick with a nail in the end of it, and he'd poke them Packer cows in, and I'd get up there and auctioneer the Packer cows. Then we had a horse sale every other Saturday night. Well, I loved the horse sale. And so over time, I just knew that I was not set out to be an auctioneer. I was going to be a horse sale auctioneer. And so I just love it. And so 40 years later, I'm still loving it.
Well, that's cool, and you can see that you love it. And one of the things that I've heard you talk about some is just the method of marketing auctioning and how it's different than a lot of other ways that people sell things. And with all the, Facebook marketplaces and just ways that the end user's trying to kind of step in that role, I'd like to ask you, do you still have that belief that it is one of the best ways to sell a horse or to sell a piece of property?
I think anything you want to sell, the auction method of marketing is the fairest, most effective way of doing things. Now, of course, if you got the wrong guy behind the microphone or the wrong sale crew, then you're not going to be as effective. But at the highest levels of whatever we do, and especially in the horse business and like you guys in the real estate business, this isn't always just about the money. We sell a lifestyle. You guys sell a lifestyle. I do a little real estate stuff myself from time to time, and a lot of that is lifestyle, and that's emotional. And so when you factor in the relationship between man and man, and then you put an animal in the middle of that, you create a lot of emotion, and you create a lot of momentum, and it just brings an excitement. It brings a whole new atmosphere than just somebody sitting around clicking on a mouse. And so, this is America, so do it how you want to do it.
Right.
But I tell everybody all the time, you can click around and everybody can get the potatoes, but you're probably going to need to bring them in front of me if you want the gravy.
I love that. And I've heard you say that before, and that stuck with me because, as I've gotten into the auction deal, I hadn't been in it very long on the auction side, been in the real estate business for right at a little over 20-something years. But, the auction side always interested me. And then, when I got involved with United Country, had a really good opportunity to go and get my auction license. But I laugh, too, because I think about going through that process, which was really a neat process to go to auction school. But then I look at a lot of the guys that I've run across that are really accomplished in this business, and there's a lot of them that are like you, that went out and were self-taught, but grew up in the actual real world of doing auctions. And that's probably the single hardest thing when you get in it at 50, to sit and realize that, you're never going to catch up with a guy like you that sit there and but from the chanting and the ring experience.
Yeah.
And there's this movement in auctioning right now too. And we do a lot of online things and they work for certain things. But then there's other things, like when we set up to do a multi-par, you need to do that live. You've got too many things that you've got to make sure you're taking care of for the seller. You got to educate the buyers. You've got to be able to pivot and
There's two words that play into this. One is relationship and the other is communication.
Absolutely.
And just like on them multi-pars, when you build relationships right there while you're doing it.
Yep, you do.
I build relationships across that sale ring. I've got relationships with people over the last 40 years that we've never touched hands.
Yeah.
But we have sat across that ring. We could meet up. We'd recognize each other. We even sat around. I'm liable to bump into somebody I sold my horse 5 years ago. Now, one of the things, Robin gets after me sometimes because I will not remember that guy's name.
Yeah.
But I remember the horse he bought.
Yeah.
I'll remember that horse. We do that all the time. That is what makes this unique and special. It's what I tell everybody all the time. I love horses.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the other side and you love horses too, we already got a common bond.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk you into something that you don't want to do, really. But I might help you not chicken out when you ought to be participating. Right. It's a quality of life issue. It's
absolutely.
And so
and there another aspect of the auction method is this price discovery that goes on in the ring. I mean, sometimes when you're one-on-one with a buyer or seller, there is this thought in the buyer's mind: am I paying too much? But when you're in an auction environment and there's somebody else bidding against you, it kind of affirms that you're not crazy. That somebody else thinks that animal.
It's nice to know that somebody's as smart as you are.
That's right. Well, but in the land side, I'll tell you, dealing with that, one of the things that's always interesting when we have those auctions, there'll be tons of bankers and even appraisers that'll call me afterwards wanting to know how that auction turned out, because they're getting a pulse for the market.
Well, it is the market. And
it's in every, you look at automobiles, you look at cattle, you look at all of them. Where do they determine basis value on livestock markets? They go to the sale barns and they look and see how are the cattle trading.
So it's the best, most effective way to do this.
I've heard you use another term on that too, and when I think about this kind of helps me tee up what I wanted to talk about leading into the Clovis horse sale, where y'all going with that. But heard you talk about being live and in color with these auctions and watching. 3 years ago we came in and became an event sponsor for you guys in the February sale. This year we'll talk about that here in a minute, but we've got one coming up we're really excited about. We're teaming up with RealMax and our real estate company are co-sponsoring that. But when I first came into this, I'd gone to the Clovis horse sale a lot when I was younger, and honestly hadn't been just a whole lot. And when I went over to the Mallet that first time and watched the event y'all were putting on, it had changed a lot.
Oh my gosh! It's a whole different ball game now.
Yeah, and then, the other one was a unique deal too, and it was a part of history and all, but it was more of a volume deal. I think numbers ahead running through the deal. But man, what I saw there was like a horse show folded up or some kind of an event along with this sale that had a premium connotation to it that was really impressive.
Well, thank you. We I'm a very, very fortunate guy, Monty, to come up as just an old poor kid in Meeker, Oklahoma, catch me a break at Triangle Sale Company back in 1984, and a guy gave me a job. Back in those days, in '84, the horse market had crashed, so they weren't worth anything. So they hired the cheapest help they could hire. Well, that was me, and so I had the opportunity to watch the biggest volume, best horse traders in the country. And sometimes the best also were the worst. But I experienced the whole thing. And then get the opportunity to manage and run Clovis over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It was huge. We'd sell 1,600 horses a weekend. And I saw everything you can see. And then at the same time, I got offered the opportunity, like at the NCHA fraternity, things like that. So I shared an auction block with a guy named Don Green, one of the greatest guys to ever grab a gavel and a microphone. I stood in the block with him for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
You don't get any better than that. And a guy like John Bowling that started Triangle Sale Company almost 40 years ago, he brought me up out of nothing. One of the best horse sale managers I ever saw in my life. So we got to see this whole thing. And then when the opportunity came to take what we'd already been doing for decades, move it to Texas, move it to Level-Land in a really cool facility, now begin to sort off some things that we didn't want to do anymore, attempt to elevate to a place we want to get to. This last sale was our 15th sale at the Mallet. This last sale, I was proud sucker this last sale. I mean, we had some really nice horses. They sold good. The event went smooth. We host an entire event. If you hadn't noticed, Level-Land, Texas is not a destination point. And so in order to attract people, we create events. It also gives us an awesome way to display our horses. Like this last sale, we hosted the team roping. Well, now we own our own cattle. We know everything that's going to happen. that roping was perfect. I mean, that thing was so good, and you could see the horses. And we've upgraded our live stream, and the people are coming in, and then we do it as a family, the whole family. And so, man, we're just proud as punch of that thing.
That was one thing I was wanting to bring out, and you mentioned it, but it is. It's just truly fun watching y'all as a family unit, and really even extended family, because I know a lot of those folks you've got that work with you. They're like, you call them aunts and uncles probably, but I mean, they've been in there working with you at every one. You know, it's like kind of like watching somebody where they've just worked together so long, everybody knows their job, and you know they make it look pretty darn easy, and I know they're doing a lot of work.
There's a lot of moving parts,
yeah,
but the right people in place, and like I say, Karen, my secretary, we've been together over 30 years. I mean, I've been with Robin 42. So I've about had 2 female supervisors about all my life. And so, but that's how we, you know, just like Lynette that clerks for us and runs our team roping.
Yeah.
We did the first team roping horse sale together in Clovis in 1994. We had 880 teams in the first round of the team roping. It was the team roping from Hades, and we've never forgotten. I've got the poster framed down there in my office. But we've just all done this together. Those bid spotters, man, we do this every week together. Well, some of them I've done their weddings. I've baptized them. You know, the horse guys in the world, I do their funerals. I mean, it is a family thing.
Well, and it's fun watching you with your grandkids that are coming up now and involved, and seeing how they're stepping into that and helping, and it's just really neat watching the whole thing. And that kind of leads me to another thing, because I know when COVID cranked up, I mean, you already touched on how that led you into Texas. It's funny how things that we go through that are trials lead us to make choices or point us in a direction, and we walk through doors, and then opportunities just come from it.
Absolutely.
But another one that kind of came about during that time was when you started doing Coffee with the Colonel.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one that I wanted to talk a little bit about. You know, I think that came at a time when people were sitting there at home, and you really were ministering to some needs that people had. It wasn't just to your congregation, because you preach, and we hadn't talked about that much yet, but you've got a group of guys and women and families that you minister to there over in Muleshoe and the surrounding areas. But man, you really, I mean, last time I checked, that following was unbelievable. But how many people do you have that follow Coffee with the Colonel?
You know, I really don't know.
A bunch.
Yeah. I know we've got a group now for Muleshoe Fellowship that you can join, and a lot of people do that to catch Coffee with the Colonel, and they plug into all our other stuff. But there's right at 10,000 in that group now.
Right.
But the reach of that Coffee with the Colonel, I mean, we're in Australia and Canada, and I get emails and messages and stuff all the time from everywhere, and then you can be anywhere. I mean, Southern California or Illinois, it don't matter. You can be anywhere, and somebody will walk up and say, "Hey, ain't you that Colonel guy?"
Well, and I've been with you a couple of times where people come up and they want to talk to you about it. And you know, I think that it ties in with how, and this is what I was really kind of wanting to bring into focus for this whole thing, is that, you know, you've been successful as an auctioneer and done well. Clovis Horse Sale kind of being the cherry on top, I think, because I know that's really y'all's baby and y'all really take care of it. You go all over the country though and help with horse sales, big horse sales. I saw I guess the last couple or a few years back, you sold the first horse that went over $1 million, and then you've sold, how many have you sold?
Well, I sold, that was Would She Be Magic. I think that's 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
And she was a 2-year-old, and she brought $1,050,000. Then we came back the next year and we sold her sire, Would He Be Tough. I sold him for $1,300,000. And then we came back last year, and I wasn't the auctioneer, but we sold another 2-year-old for $1,200,000.
Wow.
And then on Wednesday, I sold a 2-year-old stud colt for $1,500,000. And I also sold a yearling last year for $975,000.
Wow.
So that's pretty darn close to $1 million.
That's pretty darn close.
So you know the funny thing about that, I was doing an interview with a magazine just a few months before that, And that guy asked me, he said, what's the highest one you ever sold? And I sold just a swinging peanut one time, and I sold 10 man for $500,000, and I can name off a few of them I've done, and it's no big deal, it's just money and horses, but they said, well, do you ever think you'll sell one for $1 million? And I said, I'm the old guy. I probably ain't gonna be around long enough to ever sell one for $1 million. Son of a gun, we ain't done 2 or 3 of them, and but the horse has attained quite a value, and once you understand the uniqueness of the animal, they're entitled to it. So yeah, but back to the coffee with the Colonel thing, I just spoke to a matter. I was in Arkansas preaching for 3 days when the president and the vice president of the United States come out on stage and said, we got an invisible enemy. We need everybody to pull up for a minute. And I was in a room full of preachers. And when they mentioned pulling up on Sunday, they lost their bananas. and they were going crazy. And everybody's mad and everybody's upset and everybody's confused. I was no different. I don't want to shut down. My wife and I, we lost a pretty good tub full on that first day because we had one horse sale was already in the books, catalog was printed. We're ready to roll. We got another one half done. That money's gone. We're done. Yeah. It's all gone. Well, we'd been practicing for years, so it wasn't that big a deal. But anyhow, all that being said, I went in the motel room, locked myself in the room, inquired of the Lord. He gave me a word, put my phone up next to the lamp there on the dresser thing. I didn't know nothing about this stuff. And I recorded that message. And then I figured out how to send it. And I sent it. And within 2 hours, over 50,000 people had listened to that message.
Wow.
I gave that message again that night to that church. And the phone started ringing and the messages started coming. Pastors all over the country. How are we going to do this? And I said, the Lord will show us. And I'll tell you. So I started talking. And I just asked God about something and we talked about it. Well, I tried to quit 2 or 3 times. We went all the way through Passover. All the way, and I said, okay, I'll stay through Passover. And I'll teach, because I want to teach, because I thought that was important. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't quit. Mm-hmm. So, however long ago that's been, since March 2020, 5 days a week, and I'll miss one every now and then, but not very many, and we speak, and just common sense, everyday stuff.
I think that's what's resonated with people is that you showed them how you take what you're hearing sometimes on Sunday, sometimes other places, but you're taking it and you're out there putting it to practical application. And
just taking the Bible and go do it.
And that's what was missing for the biggest part in a lot of places, and people are hungry for that. I mean, it's like we were talking about this morning, feeding the sheep, you know. And I know you take that serious. And the Coffee with the Colonel deal has showed us, I think a lot of us, how you can do something good with something and do good with it and use it for God, and different people can take that same thing and do all kinds of bad with it.
Exactly. And so it's just whichever way you want to go. And Monty, as you watch this, you know, we talked about this morning, one of my biggest struggles earlier in life was, am I a horse sale auctioneer? Am I a preacher? What do I do with my life? Well, I'm a horse sale auctioneer. I'm the horse sale guy. And so I could never walk off from that. Well, without that platform, Coffee with the Colonel wouldn't have went anywhere. Now, I'll give you the first public heads up right here now. This is brand new news. We're going to be really glad that I got that platform now, because as this country steps into a movement, we're not going to step into an election. We're going to step into a movement. And when we do, I know for a fact that God's going to initiate my voice to speak to that in a very short period of time. And whatever influence we've been given, we're going to use to support and advance that movement for freedom, for family, for the cause of America, all to the glory of God. So
well, and that was another thing that kind of ties in with that, was talking about where you went through Coffee with the Colonel, and you started that county by county
Mm-hmm.
movement. I know I was over at Bailey County one evening, and we sat there and we had a meeting out there in front of the courthouse.
Took
and
communion on the
yeah,
courthouse.
took communion on the courthouse, and,
Mhm.
and then from that point forward, I mean, it led to county by county after county. You were flying places, you were going
Mhm.
places.
We went to Faye, South Dakota. We were in Illinois. We were in Arizona. We went all over the place because, Monty, Americans are interested in America.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever this outer fringe of society, whatever that is going on, the heartland of America still believes in America.
Yeah, and a big chunk of them, I think, believe in God. I think they just sometimes have been put in a corner because they've told that you don't mix God and politics and God and really God's in all of that. I mean,
and the man-made institutions have hidden him from humanity.
Right.
And
I heard you say something not too long ago that you said the attack's not where we think it might be coming from, that it may be coming from a place you wouldn't expect.
Exactly.
And I think that it is. I mean, it's a situation where people have got to, do what you're doing. I mean, taking the things that God blesses you with, using those for His good and His glory, and going out and doing all you can with what you got.
Exactly. And you can't just be emotional, and you can't just be mad.
No.
But you got to be wise, and you got to. I mean, God is the one that told me county by county. I don't know who else to ask.
Yeah.
I mean, He's the one that gave me the original vision a long time ago, Monty. You probably never heard this part, but I'm sitting in my office at 6:30 on one morning there, and I'm getting this vision. The United States of America, and the thread is coming unraveled, and I'm hearing the heartland of America, and all this, and I'm going, God, I can't figure this out. And I'm sitting there, and at 6:35, I got up and I said, Lord, my head's about to pop. I'm gonna go feed the horses. And that's how I do it with him. At 6:35, a guy called me from California. That's a very well-known prophetic guy. I never met him. I'd heard about him. How he got my phone number. He calls. And he said, hey, what do you got going on right now? And I said, man, this is weird. I said, I got this vision thing. He said, well, let me tell you now, after I told him what it was, he said, I just came back from overseas. 2 different prophetic conferences, 30 prophets in each group, and all 60 of them had the same vision that you just had.
Wow.
About the heartland of America.
Yeah.
And so we knew. So He just set us up for this. He and I'm not the brightest crayon in the box, but I will say, okay, let's try it.
Well, and I think that you've touched on this before, and I've been there in the position where I know what I'm fixing to say is going to hit. It's not going to hit a nerve. It's going to resonate. I think that's scary. When you start talking like you just started talking, it just scares the bejesus out of a lot of people. And I mean, it's because we've kind of all been taught to whoa, what did you say? And the thing is, something I've heard you say, and I'm always going to do this with any time somebody tells me they're getting some kind of a word from God or they think that God's leading them to do something, is you got to take that and you got to then on your own take that and go line that up with God's word. That's our job. Like even when you give a sermon or you're doing a Bible study, all the people that are sitting there taking that need to weigh that against God's word, and that's how you start to find out if you're really truly getting led by the Holy Spirit or you're getting led by yourself.
Yep.
And that's something that I think because we're scared of getting led by ourselves, we don't get in God's word, and therefore we don't get led by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
and I think that's stymied a lot of things.
Oh, it has, and we got so heaven bound we weren't any earthly good.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is, Monty, that comes right back to the beginning of our talk. It's all about the family. There's not another institution that you can trust in this United States of America or on this globe. You can't trust the institution of education, medicine, religion, anything else, finance. No, sir. You got to keep one eye open all the time. Take it from a guy who's been listening to horse traders for the last 50 years. You gotta listen with your eyes.
Yeah.
And so, but if you do it right, the institution of family is the only institution that God ever put in the earth. The institution of marriage, man and woman come together, raise family. A lot of different things can be said about that. But that being said, as we've gone through this whole process and come right back to it, my family is my support system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get my advice anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go outside. My prayer warriors are in my family. My counsel's in my family. We work together in my family because God gave us that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all that being said, I care about that family.
Oh yeah.
And them grandsons of mine are going to find the woman of their dreams one of these days. And they're going to raise their own children. They're going to have their own families. There's no better place to do that than the great United States of America, one nation under God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God that's the country that's the land of the free and the home of the brave. And so to preserve that for my family, if it costs every dollar I have, but I can preserve their freedom for the future, it's better than a bowl of stew today. Don't sell out your birthright.
Right.
And so you have to engage and you have to serve God by serving your family, serve your community, serve your country. Mm-hmm. And if you do that as a horse sale auctioneer or a real estate agent or however you do that, do it.
Well, and it you know, when you talk about that, it just brings up the whole idea that when you take, like you said, that institution that God showed us and gave us from the beginning to the end of the Bible, but then, you know, like in Ephesians, it sits there and talks about the family, and then he compares it to his own, mm-hmm. the family he's building the kingdom.
Yep.
And that's the structure that he uses, and he says, I'm comparing it to this.
Yep.
And so, you know, it's huge, and I wanted to end up with that and, you know, talk about, you hit all those points. There's only a couple other things that I wanted to touch on before we finish up this interview. One's something that I know y'all have been active on over at Mills Youth Fellowship in the last year or so, maybe a little longer than that, but y'all have opened up that food pantry or relocated it and helped redo the building, and it's right there across the road from...
Right, our building is at 710 East American Boulevard, right across the street. Just real quick, it's the Ministerial Alliance. They support that food pantry, and there's a lot of different churches involved, a lot of different people involved, and they were in need of a building. Just a real short story to give glory to God. Neighbor come across the road one night while we was roping. He said, "Pray for us. We're losing our building. We need a building." I said, "What kind of building do you need?" He said, "A metal building with a roll-up door so that we can use pallet dollies to get food in." Mm-hmm. I said, "Okay." Robin and I talked. We said, "We'll see what God says. And but if we need to build a new building, we'll build a building." And she wanted to build a new building. I said, "Oh, there's got to be an old building around here. You know me, I'm going to cut the budget a little bit." So anyhow, the next morning, Bible study across the road. I've always wanted that property for something. Mm-hmm. And there's a building, metal building with a roll-up door in the middle of it, right across the street. The man that owned it came to Bible study that morning, told another man in there that he wanted to sell it. Before daylight, we had our second meeting we've ever had in 21 years at Mule Shoe Fellowship. Me and two other guys stood on the porch, looked across the road, and I said, "I need you guys to tell me how this is going to work today. Either Mule Shoe Fellowship is fixing to buy that building, or I'm going to walk over and buy that building. You tell me how it's going to go." He said, "No, we're going to buy that building." I whistled that guy back over there. He drove over, and he said, "How much you want for that building?" He told me. I said, "Do you believe in handshakes?" And I shook his hand, and I said, "I just bought your building. Now we'll work out the details." Right. I went and called my neighbor, got him out of bed, and said, "Hey, you can quit praying about that building."
Amen.
God brought the building that morning. They feed over 135 people a month. They come in there. They have organized the coolest thing you've ever seen. People participate all over the United States. Wow. We got beef that comes from California, eggs, cheese, the stuff. I mean, it comes everywhere. I don't have anything to do with it. I mean, I'm just kind of a mouthpiece around here, but they man, there's a lot of people put a lot into it, and
Well, it's a neat story. I mean, and not a story. I mean, it's a truth. I mean,
Yes.
how it came about, and I've heard you talk about it, and I think it just reminds us that, you know, one of the things that the good word the word tells us is that we're supposed to notice the needs of people around us, and a lot of times these simple things that
and be ready and season out of season.
and help people that need help.
We're ready. Just you say yes. That was the second meeting we've ever had in 21 years, and that was it.
Well, that's a good time to have a meeting. I mean, if
Yes.
you're gonna do some business.
Yeah.
That's some business to be doing.
But hey, before we do get out of here, though, I want to take this time to tell you guys thank you, because we got the February horse sale coming.
Oh, absolutely.
And you guys have sponsored now. This will be what, your third year?
Third year. This will be our third year.
And Rio Max is coming on now.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're changing events. We've had the United Country Cowboy Freestyle.
Right.
That was fun while it lasted. That chapter's over. But we're coming to a 5-head team roping. It's going to be a really cool deal. You guys are putting up the purse. And we just thank you very much for your sponsorship.
Well, and I did want to mention too. I mentioned Rio Max earlier, but I also wanted to mention Chance. Chad's been coming up from Pilot Point. He's with Don Bell down there at Don Bell Properties, which is another United Country office. But we in that last sale we just had the best time. I tell you, Chad was there, and then we had the Rio Max booth beside us. We had people coming up wanting to talk about those tubs with Julie, and you know, it was just a lot of fun. And I've got a couple of new agents that were there. One of them, Chelsea Wyford, that's over by Millshoe. They moved here from Ohio. She's really interested in equine, so she loves the fact that we sponsor those
That's
booths.
good.
So, and then, you know, one of the other cool things before we get off that subject, y'all had that spur and bit show.
Bit and Spur. South Plains Bit and Spur show.
And we were able to give away at this one for our drawing a set of custom-made spurs from Mr. Payne, I believe. And as it turns out, it was a farrier that won them, Chase.
Yes.
And he won them, but then he actually took the ones we had on display. He liked the ones that he'd already made, so he didn't even have to build a set of customs. He took the ones we had. But it was just really neat getting all that together and seeing that. That was a really good turnout at that last sale. It was phenomenal.
So good. Yeah. It kind of felt like all the work we've done up to this point is finally amounting to something.
Well, that's nice when that happens.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I can't tell you again how much I appreciate you coming in and being here. I quit looking at that clock a long time ago because the time just flies when I get to hear you talk about, you know, the things that you've been doing. And I think people are going to really enjoy this interview and our audience. And once again, just thank you for all that you are doing. Thank you for being a part of this. And we look forward to working with y'all at the horse sale for indefinite time period.
Yes, sir.
That. So
thank you, Monty.
thank you, Steve.
Appreciate you.
All right, that was a lot of fun sitting there having that interview with Steve. You know, it's neat when he comes in and takes the time because he's a busy guy. Yeah. And he was here yesterday. He had his grandson with him that was in there while we were doing the interview, which I thought was pretty cool. And boy, he's all about them grandkids. We didn't get to talk about that as much as I was kind of planning on, and I felt bad about that. But you know, one of the things that I did want to point out to everybody is that we are going to try to do interviews, not every week, but a lot of the time. Sometimes they will be pre-recorded like that one. Sometimes they would be live. And we want our viewers and the people out there to kind of help us with what we put on this each week, because we want it to be things that people enjoy watching. So at the end of this, when we do our outro, I think we'll have a little deal that pops up that says, you know, you can send us an email at comments@gunandsaddle.com. But let's be honest, I mean, this is Monty and Carrie and Maddie we're talking about here. If you know us, holler at us. Let us know what you'd like to see on here. If you got something you think would be cool, something that people would enjoy, man, let us know.
Please, come on, you take my place.
Yeah, no, Carrie, you're on. We wanted to have a little fun here for just a second, and you guys that are out there, comment side, you can take part in this. I was going to do a little bit of trivia. I was going to kind of pit Maddie and Carrie against each other for office unity. But these are just kind of nonsensical questions here, but I'm going to test your brain a little bit. We'll have 5 questions. We're going to be multiple choice, and then we're going to let you guys vote, and then I'm going to give you the correct answer. So the first question, King Ranch is the largest ranch in Texas. How many acres is it total? Is it A, 450,000, B, 825,000, C, 1.2 million, or D, 265,000? Now, which one do you want to see?
Jeez. I thought King Ranch was a truck. Let's see. I'll go with B.
What would you?
B, 825,000.
Let's get crazy here. Let's go with C.
1.2 million?
I don't think that's right, but
That's a lot of
Well,
acres.
the thing is, everything's bigger in Texas, but not that big. It's 825,000. So, Carrie, you've got one. I'm going to keep track here. Carrie, you've got one. Maddie?
Julie commented. She said 1.2 as well. So thank you,
Look,
Julie.
there we go.
There we go. Okay, Ronnie said B. So, good job, Ronnie. Okay, I like you guys interacting. That's good. Next question. What is the only food that cannot go bad? And I'm going to give you some choices here. Dark chocolate, A. B, peanut butter. C, canned tuna. Or D, honey.
Oh, D. It's D, right?
You're not looking at the answer right
No, I'm not.
Maddie, I see you looking at the answer. A. I'm going with A, dark
Okay,
chocolate.
so we got A, dark chocolate, and D, honey.
I've just had some honey that's been in my
I won't give anybody that's out there participating. We got any comments coming in on the question about? Okay, we got a honey coming in from. Can you see the name there, Shanna?
Shanna.
Oh, everybody's on
Ronnie
honey.
said honey.
Ronnie says honey.
Honey.
Honey is the correct answer. So,
I've had some honey sitting
All
in
right.
my house for it.
all right, so that's good. We've got a tie here in the audience. I think Ronnie right now, I think is winning out on the online deal because he's answered both questions. Okay, so we're going to go to question number 3. Another food question. What type of food holds the world record for being the most stolen around the globe? Is it A, Wagyu beef, B, cheese, C, coffee, or D, chocolate? Carrie, I'll let you go first on this one.
Stolen?
Yeah, most, in general, just stolen the most.
I'm going with chocolate.
So you're going to say D, chocolate. Maddie?
Don't think it could be coffee. Coffee's not food, but I will go with cheese. I don't know.
Look,
So
we
B,
have a-
cheese.
Cheese.
We have a coffee out on
Okay, we have
Oh, Shanna said coffee.
Shanna says coffee. Okay. We're going to give everybody just a little bit longer, so if anybody weighs in. We got one more here.
Coffee,
We got
coffee.
coffee.
Yeah,
So
right.
coffee, we're getting a consensus here on coffee. Now, Carrie said chocolate. Maddie said cheese. And we have 2 out in the audience that say coffee. The correct answer is cheese.
Yes!
Why would you
Cheese.
steal cheese?
Cheese is delicious.
I don't know, but it is estimated, get this, it is estimated that as much as 4% of the cheese produced around the world is stolen. I guess some people take their cheese a lot more serious than others.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I really didn't expect y'all to know that one. Okay, here's one.
Lucky guess.
This would be question number 4, is it not, I believe?
Mhm.
Since 2020, warm and dry conditions across Texas and the southern United States have been attributed to what girlish weather pattern, which results from cooler water temperatures in the Pacific? Oh, we've already got somebody jumping out to answer that one.
Oh, you gotta move your
I can't
mouse.
say. Yeah, we've got to move this here. Workers stealing. Ronnie was coming back in explaining the cheese deal. Workers are stealing the cheese, probably because they're hungry. Okay, but since 2020, I'll read this again. Warm and dry conditions across Texas and the southern United States have been attributed to what girlish weather pattern, which results from cooler water temperatures in the Pacific? Is it A, mi hermana, B, la niña, C, la muchacha, or D, mamacita grande?
Ooh, Mamacita
I
Grande.
wish it was Mamacita Grande.
I'm going B.
B, la
It's-
niña.
La Niña.
Okay, we got 2 la niñas in the room.
Spanish for it.
I don't know if anybody else
La
checking in.
Niña.
La niña. We got Shauna says la niña. Okay. Well, the correct answer, just so you know. Oh, we got another one here. Ronnie says B. He says la niña. The correct answer is B, la niña.
There you go.
And I'm ready for that to get out here. We've been hearing about this El Nino. I started to play that Chris Farley video for you where he goes, El Nino, but we won't do that. Okay, so the last question. Okay, right now, I think Maddie is ahead by 1, if I've got count right here. Is that right? I believe that's right. Okay, so the last question.
She's sitting behind the answer sheet.
No, my last.
Okay, this is one that I think this one is a big one that's going to be, somebody may know this. What is the oldest soft drink in the United States? Is it A, Coca-Cola, B, Pepsi, C, Dr. Pepper, or D, Canada Dry Ginger Ale?
Oh, Lord.
We need to get some background music, so like the Jeopardy music.
Yeah.
I'm going Pepsi.
I'm going Dr. Pepper just because Texas, baby.
Hey, Ronnie is gloating. He's talking about how cool it is at Angel Fire this morning. Julie's saying A.
So she says Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Carrie put Pepsi. Maddie's saying Dr. Pepper. I bet it's Canada. What is that ginger ale?
Okay, so Carrie, you said what?
Pepsi.
Pepsi, okay.
Shanna said Coke.
Coke.
Chelsea said Coke.
Coke. All right, I like everybody taking part in this. This is cool. Okay, the correct answer is a Texas original Dr. Pepper. Made in Dublin, Texas. I don't know that it was called Dr. Pepper from the beginning.
I thought about that.
And that might have been a little bit of a trick question because I actually think it was called Black Cherry Soda when it first came out.
So Pepsi's correct.
So we may have to do a little research on that question. But I think this week, the title
Give it to
is
Maddie.
Maddie. Of course, next week we're not going to let her sit where she can see the answer.
Next week we're going to have the answer sheet.
Just a reminder, I did not look at the answer sheet. My last name is Smart. It's because I am smart and I'm in these games.
Sure, there you go.
Okay, we won't go any further on that. So guys, listen, we really enjoyed y'all being with us today. Again, if you've got any ideas for things that we could do on the show next week, we'd love to have you. We're going to have other people coming in. One thing I wanted to mention, and I did not want to forget this, we have the capabilities through this broadcast, the way we're doing this, to send out interview links to people. So if you know somebody that you think would be good to interview, but you don't think they've got time to come in and come to the office, that's okay. We can bring them in live with an interview link if they've got a place with good internet to use their phone. So, we're really hoping that these interactions, this live aspect of this is really cool. And that's why we want to try to do this at a consistent time every week. So, plan on being here again next week at 10 a.m. We'll be back for our next episode of Gun and Saddle.
Thanks for watching Gun and Saddle, a United Country M. Edwards Realty and Auction weekly podcast. Have an idea for a future episode, comments, or suggestions? Email us at comments@gunandsaddle.com. Remember to subscribe or follow us today. Join us again next week for a deeper look at the land we all love and the people that call it home. This is Gun and Saddle.